Hi there.
How are you guys today?
Good. How are you, Haley?
Not too shabby.
While we're waiting for everybody to jump on, I was thinking about our summer schedule, and we definitely won't have a mastermind in July because I have found July everybody's on vacation or has something going on. So the turnout is really low. What are your thoughts about June and August? And we will do whatever you guys want to do. I just want to have people actually show up and have a conversation.
I mean, I'm around, so I'll have a conversation with you.
Thanks, Haley. Okay, so then if nobody's has any strong thoughts about it one way or the other, we'll leave it on the schedule for June and August, and we'll just won't have one in July.
My only other thought, Paula, is August. We have mega camp, and normally the ops mastermind one is always like a mega camp recap. So unless we're doing something different, maybe we just combined, but we can talk about that.
Okay, and as August comes, what we may do, Michelle, is we usually have a bigger ops mastermind one, so it just may be at a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for August.
Okay, so today we're talking internal communication.
External.
External. I've been on coaching calls all day. Can you tell? I need some coffee.
So why don't we start with all the possibilities of external communications, because it may be different for some of us. So who are we communicating with externally? Aaliyah, I can see you talking, but you're not coming through for some reason. Something's not connected right. Title companies, yep. Who else?
Inspectors, appraisers.
Photography companies.
Oh, good one. Hadn't thought about that one. Who else?
We have sign, install, and removals. That company.
First,
Sorry, Michelle, I missed what you just
yeah,
said.
I'm sorry, photographers.
Okay. Any others?
Someone say staging and lenders?
Nope, we didn't have those two. Did we miss anything else, or did we get them all? So I have title, lender, inspectors, appraisers, photographers, sign companies, stagers. What about the other agent, the agent on the other side of the transaction? And then some of you are in attorney state, so I was thinking attorneys.
And the other side's TC.
Oh, good point. Any other ones? Do we have a complete list? Okay, so when we look at all these companies we're communicating with, what is your guys' biggest challenge?
Can you hear me, Paula?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yay. Okay, thank you. Okay, I missed the question, but now I'm here.
So when we think about all these people we're communicating with externally, what is everybody's biggest challenge?
Keeping them on the same page we are.
And what do you mean by that?
Like title companies, half the time things go okay, and then sometimes we feel like we're doing their part. Like the balls we've had dropped from title companies and the last 5 deals we've had, it's like, oh man, like where's the lack of communication or something like that.
I'll echo that a little bit, as I find, especially with title companies, we don't always get copied on stuff. And it's always a challenge if they don't include the TC, we don't know what's going on.
Yep.
So maybe that's our first topic, is how do we get everybody to communicate with us and not communicate with the agent, right? To realize we are the person they're supposed to be communicating with at that point.
Well, I know I send out, when I'm sending emails initially, I'm always upfront saying, please copy me on all correspondence, or this is the agent on this property, and I'm the TC that'll be assisting whoever. So, I mean, I try to address that upfront. Now, I will say with some title companies, it does make it easier in some respects, because they'll have Qualia, or they'll have different platforms that they use that make it easier to communicate. And I find that keeps most people, on the same page. So
We just started with a new title company that uses Qualia. And even though it seems to be a little more work, it does keep it way more organized.
yeah, it is. If you can get used to communicating within it, I find it does okay. Although they don't always respond quickly.
Okay, so that's a common thing.
Really
Yes.
Sometimes, but if it's somebody that we work with, I can do it outside of Qualia, and they'll respond.
So is anybody on this call communicating with title lenders where they're having great communication? Like they're the first point of contact, that they're not going to the agents, that they're coming to you all the time?
We
Hi,
have a
Michelle.
couple.
I'm the first, this is the first time I've been on one of your calls, so thanks for having me. I have great communication with all of our title companies. We have about 16 agents on my team, and we have preferred escrow officers. So I work with probably 3 or 4, 90% of the time. And then there are a few random ones that we get because we don't get to choose. And if I'm left off of an email, the agent forwards the email to me, I immediately respond back and say, please remove said agent from all emails and send them to me from now on. And then that way I can communicate with my agent when necessary, because they don't need to see the title commitment. They don't need to see commission verification. There's just certain things. So I just pick up a phone and call them and just kindly remind them, or send the email, and it typically works. Lenders, they're their own breed. They never talk to me. Ever.
I will echo that. Yes. Lenders are tough. We get left off of lenders a lot.
Danielle, I know you were going to say something. What would you add to that?
We have a title company that we work with very frequently, very similar to Michelle, that does communicate directly with us, with me always. They know I'm their main point of contact. They don't bother adding in anybody else. But then, like I would say, the reverse, where lenders or other agents will email the agent instead of me, and it has to be forwarded, and then I'll do the same. Just follow up and say, please email me directly.
So do you guys want to go to lenders next, or do you want to stick with title and go into more of Aaliyah's issue of now balls being dropped with title?
Is it one of your preferred title companies?
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah,
have a
we have
direct
issues.
conversation?
And I don't know if it's just because we give them too many deals, but we'll have 10 to 15 going on at the same time. And then it's like, we'll miss the title deadline or certain things like that.
Could that be a conversation that you bring to your rainmaker? Because like, if that's like, for our preferred title companies, I'd be like, guys, like, do you not want business? That's cool. So we can push that another direction.
Yep, we've done that a little bit where if they don't do well, we just tell them and then we start taking stuff away. And then they'll be like, hey, we haven't seen many deals from you. And then it's like, we'll try again. And so we're in between 3 different title companies now that we work with.
How does anybody try to, I know Rose on our team works on the listing side, so the buyer chooses in the state of Maryland, so she doesn't get a choice on what title company she's dealing with. And that seems to be a lot more difficult because it's normally one-off title companies that we don't work with very often. So don't know if anybody else has luck with managing that as far as getting responses or getting copied on anything.
Ours is designated by the listing side. So it's really interesting that your state does the buyers. But sometimes like we'll see buyers submitting offers and in their additional provisions, they'll put a title company that they would like to use. And sometimes we'll switch, like if it's something they prefer, like we're not dead set on, as long as it's someone we know, we'll do that.
We counter it back a lot of times. Hey, we've pre-opened with so-and-so. Would you consider it? We would talk to the agent first. And if they say, sure, then we write in the contract and switch it. Because we also have the buyer
too. Yeah. And it's a good sign if they like that person. Like they're obviously not going to recommend a title company or a closer that doesn't do well. So we'll normally be like, yeah, okay.
I think just open lines of communication is probably the best form. And it could be, like Haley said, a phone call with the rainmaker. We made, Alyssa and I jumped on with our preferred title company because they started sending out a welcome letter. And it was not a welcome letter. It was a scary run and hide letter. Like I looked at it, I was like, holy crap. If I was a client, I would not want anything to do with filling out my birthday, my favorite color, my social security, like all of these personal information. So we got on the phone with the big guy at the title company. And we told him we didn't want these letters anymore. We understand it's mass produced and you do it to everybody, but we want our team out of it. And just opening up that dialogue with the title company's leader and my leader, it fixed everything. We no longer get those scary letters. Our clients don't have to deal with it. I provide all the information up front. So I just think that dialogue kind of is the best solution when balls are getting dropped.
Do you guys host events with your title companies, like lunches or just co-host things together?
We do. We invite our preferred title companies to join in on our client appreciation events. We have 4 a year, and we always have a title company there. Title company comes in and presents to the team and brings swag like hats and shirts and pens, and so yeah, we do have a relationship. Happy hours, they like to take everybody out to happy hour and just to build a friendship. And that helps too with the communication, because then you're with the marketing person and you're with the team leader at the events and the happy hours. So then you're building a relationship that kind of puts you a step above ball dropping. Like it wouldn't be okay if they missed a title commitment deadline. It wouldn't be okay. Because then we have to make addendums and we're chasing our, like, that's more work for me. I don't want to do that.
So
So
what do you
on,
guys- Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I was going to say, so on here, for everyone that has had this open dialogue, when there has been an issue or a gap in the system, who's having that conversation with title?
Our rainmaker does.
For me, I think it just depends on the conversation. If it's me being missed from emails, then it's just, it's not me, it's being missed by, not by the escrow officer, but maybe by one of the title helpers or the title assistants, or the assistant to the assistant, because somehow it's not added, I'm not added to the file. So sometimes it's just as simple as me calling it. But when it's a big issue, like the scary letter packages going out to our clients, I needed to get the boss involved, my rainmaker.
So how are you guys handling it with the lenders?
I leave that to the buyer's agent since they don't talk to us much anyways. As long as we know about appraisal status and if their loan is good, I can't even tell you the last time I talked to a lender.
I find that as well. It makes it very difficult sometimes because lenders normally don't communicate with us. We're in a deal right now with a credit union, and I think it's Tower Federal Credit Union, and they only have conversations with the buyers. So even the buyer's agent, neither of us, him or I, know what's going on because they strictly communicate only with the buyer. It's been very frustrating.
Is that because of like a confidentiality thing? Like our lender is supposed to just tell the buyers and then the buyers tell us?
I don't know. I've not had this happen before, but I have not worked with Tower Federal Credit Union. I know credit unions are a little bit of a different animal, but it just has been difficult to get any kind of status update. And fortunately, we're getting ready to close soon. So we did get the clear to close, so yay.
So who does pretty well with the lenders?
We're an attorney state, so I don't call lenders very often here, just once a week to check in on seller status. And I found that the bigger banks like Chase or Fifth Third, they won't give me as much information as like a smaller, like more private lender. So I don't know if there's a difference with that, or we just schmooze them enough, be like, oh, we want to be friends. It'll work a little bit better.
We even send the lender, like when something goes under contract, as long as we know who it is, we send our intro to them. And sometimes they'll say thank you, but otherwise, like that's pretty much it. I do have some lenders that they send out those automated updates, like you're at this point of the lending and then the appraisal's happening, and they will CC us. But I couldn't even tell you, there's like 3 of them. But otherwise, we just send our intro and wait to see if we ever hear from them.
Do you guys have, I'm assuming you all have a preferred lender or preferred lenders that you use. Do you have these same problems with your preferred lenders? No.
No, it's normally the random ones.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because we have several ones that we use on normally, and they're great with sending updates every week. It's awesome. We know exactly where we are in the process.
Our preferred lender will respond to my emails. They'll include me in emails, but they use an automated system that they like for some reason can't get me attached to. So all of the updates go directly to the rainmaker, and then it just has to be forwarded to me. They've like tried adding me, they're still in the process of it, but I have to send follow-up emails and just wait for them to respond to me when they could have already even updated us, and I just don't know about it.
You know, it's kind of surprising when you think about it, because you would think that every lender out there would want to be nurturing every relationship because they don't know where business is coming from. Seems like it's short-sighted on their part.
I've been a little bit surprised lately. I had this recently where the buyer, it was our listing, and the buyer had changed lenders and neglected to tell us that. I had 2 different appraisers calling me to schedule appraisals. And I'm like, wait a minute, I already have someone scheduled for this. But it's almost like, you know, they are not having very good internal communication, because if I don't know that you changed lenders, it's just, yeah, it was a lot of fires that day.
Which also means, Michelle, that the buyer would have paid for 2 appraisals because they don't send them out until the buyer's paid for them. Great. Oh my goodness. I totally agree with that. Anything else we want to cover on the lender end of things?
I'm running into quite a few issues right now with lenders. Understanding, I don't know if this is just in Florida, but with lenders understanding the loan approval period and that a loan approval
Cutting out for you guys.
Yeah.
needs to be cleared of the appraisal contingency.
Danielle, you are super freezing up and we can't hear you. Or is it just me? Can anybody else hear her?
No.
And your face is really cute right now. I missed everything that she said. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you back, Danielle? Okay, they were missing something, some dates. I have no idea where she was headed. What about other agents? Are you guys having trouble with the agents on the other side, or is everyone pretty well educated in the industry at this point to communicate with you?
I don't have too many issues with agents on the other side. Again, if I can't get somebody by email, then I text and I call. And then I text and I call and I email again. And usually by the end of the day, they'll get back to me. Otherwise, I think they know I'm not going to stop. But it's all, I've got great relationships with all of the co-op agents, and they communicate with me, and they don't even talk to the agents. I don't even think they know the agent's name by the end of the transaction. So I do most of the communicating with the agents always. I should be an agent, I feel like.
Yeah, that's kind of your situation is what I think is ideal. If they know they have one person to go to and it's you and they're going to you, it seems to work a lot better than if the other agent stays involved and they're going back and forth.
Well, as long as I have a clear communication too, with like, as soon as I get off the phone with buyer agent and I call my listing agent and say, okay, here's what's going on. It just has to be communicated too. So they are in the know. And that it goes, sometimes the challenge for me is when the other agent calls the agent and then they don't clue me in. So then I'm already calling the co-op agent, asking them the same questions that my agent just asked them an hour ago. So that's where sometimes my problem is, my own agents communicating with me.
We run into that a lot too, because there's so much texting that goes on, and
Yeah.
we get missed in that because it's not an email that you can forward or a voicemail. If they're texting back and forth and we don't get that information, then you're right. I mean, it's like, then we're reaching out for something. And you're like, no, I sent that to so-and-so 3 days ago.
Yeah, I know we look silly. Everybody looks silly.
Yeah, we don't like silly.
That brings up a really great point. Is anybody texting as a form of communication with their exterior communication?
I do that on occasion with appraisers, because sometimes we'll get emails. I'll get an email forwarded to me about an appraisal, setting up an appraisal. But it's weird. It'll be like, okay, this appraiser picked this up on the schedule. They'll be reaching out to you, but then it has their contact information. And I will normally start out with a text just to find out exactly when they're looking to schedule it, so that I can go back to the sellers and say, is this good for you? it seems to work well as a initial form of contact.
Is anybody else using text?
I will with certain
Oh, go ahead.
clients. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I usually do with our photography company if, I haven't heard back within 24 hours with a photo request. Once in a while I will, but I don't think it's very helpful because she'll just respond via email. So I don't know. I think our communication is better with email.
So do you find that other agents tend to like to text? So they tend to text the agent as opposed to getting a hold of you guys?
I think other agents do like to text. I think that's their preferred method of communication. And I get a lot of texting from the co-op agent, and then that just have to communicate with my agent. I have a Google Voice number. So if I'm going to do a text and it's during working hours, it's always a group text. It's always to co-op and Jocelyn, or it's always to buyer and Jocelyn. So everybody's on the group text and in the loop if I'm in charge of the text messaging. That way it just saves me a step. But I like that form of communication. If everybody's together on the group, it just goes by fast and you can just check off your box because you're done.
Yeah, I was curious if anybody was doing that, because that's what I've experienced too, is agents love to text. That seems to be their preferred method. And then I was curious what platforms people are using. So you're using Google Voice to do that.
Yeah, and then at 5 o'clock, I don't have to do it. It's off. So the text messages, if they still come in and it's after 5, they're going to be in my inbox in the morning. And then I just pick up from there. And I haven't missed any of the dialogue between buyer and buyer agent because they texted on my string in my Google Voice. So I'm still up to speed. So I love that. It's a great way. It's quicker than an email response if you need something immediate.
Michelle and I do the same exact thing with Better Voice. We'll just send out a text, and when they respond, it goes straight to our inbox. So we see when it comes in. After 5 o'clock, we will not be seeing those till next day. But we disclose that though, so that they're not like, oh, you left me hanging, But yeah.
That way I don't have all these people with our personal cell phone numbers. They're calling at 10 o'clock at night.
Is anybody else using a different system for that? And Jennifer, what did you say yours was called?
Better Voice.
Better Voice. I hadn't heard of that one before.
So from the beginning, actually I have a question around that. So from the beginning of a new lead comes in, is that what they're texting? Or are you switching over the phone number once they get into contract? Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, I missed it. My dogs were being loud. Can you repeat?
So the clients that, or are you talking about the other agent is who you give this phone number to?
Everybody. My
Everybody.
email signature has my Google Voice phone number on it and my cell phone number on it.
Okay, so when the clients are communicating with your agent, are you seeing that communication as well?
Not unless they're communicating off of my thread that I started.
I gotcha.
They would have to keep on that. And I've got maybe 2 of my 16 agents will continually use my thread throughout the transaction.
Okay.
Which that's genius. I should tell them all. Just use the thread I set up. Do the whole thing, and then we can all just be on the same page. That's a good point.
Which makes sense, because then everybody's in the loop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess my next question goes to kind of an operations question, because the thing I like about email, right, is we can save them, they're documented. If we ever need them for any reason, we have them. What about text? And I know Google Voice you know, they come in and they store it. But Michelle, do you guys do anything to like additionally download those or store them? Or when do you lose them, or do you never lose them?
We don't lose them. There's a website we can go to and it has everything tracked down. If you just keep scrolling through, it has the day and the exact message from when it was sent through. In ours, we just use it as an admin line. So clients know it's an admin number. So when they call, you know, we get the phone call and one of us will answer it. And then we go from there. It's kind of like a remote office number. Yeah. I send out feedback requests like that. You know, hi, this is so-and-so, just asking about feedback for this property. And other agents will just text it back. And, you know, getting feedback is so much easier that way because I feel like agents respond better to text. So if I send out 10 requests, we usually get 8 feedbacks through the text message and I get it straight in my inbox. So I don't have to go looking for agents for feedback. So, very helpful.
That is a great idea. Yeah, because getting on an email, they do maybe once a day, right? It's not very often. Picking up the phone, they have so many phone calls they need to make. They don't want to make it for feedback, but to text really quickly. Yeah.
My favorite part of this is just that you can unread an email. You can't unread a text message. So when you're TC and you're doing so many different things and getting pulled into different, you know, fires, you can go back and actually unread these text messages that they sent so that you can deal with it later and send it back to your inbox. So.
So we have inspectors, appraisers, photographers, sign companies, stagers. Anything around any of those? I have a curiosity question around inspectors. Are you guys setting up the inspection yourselves? No? So how are you? Some of you are, some of you aren't. Okay, so the ones that aren't setting up the inspection, what's your process for that?
So, Alyssa, it's in good practice for our buyer agents when we're writing an offer because of this tight market. When we submit an offer to a listing agent, the inspection's already been scheduled. And I'm not involved in the submitting offers and trying to go pending. I'm only involved after we're pending. So our agents set up the inspections immediately, and that helps. Maybe we'll get the transaction over another potential buyer because they don't even have their inspection scheduled. And I have created a buyer cover sheet that has some few details that I need to know, like, are they married? Are they local? When is the inspection? And what's the status of the earnest money? So with all of the pending documents, I get a cover sheet that tells me when the inspection is. Or it'll say, the inspection's been scheduled, please provide the CVS code to the lockbox. Or inspection's not been confirmed, that's scheduled for this date. Can you please confirm with the seller? So there's just little notes that we can communicate that way. But typically it's pretty seamless. And then if they forget to fill out that line for whatever reason, they just call them and see where we're at.
So your agents are really starting the process for you.
Some of them don't like to schedule the inspection, and so they'll put that on schedule the inspection with this inspector, and then I'll just do it. But typically, and then I let them know when it is. But it is so much easier too for the agents to do them sometimes because they need to confirm with their client, confirm with the sellers, and then confirm with the inspector what time the clients can meet them there for the final walkthrough. And all this has to kind of coordinate around the agent's schedule. So coordinating, being there for the walkthrough, making sure the sellers are gone, and all this, sometimes it's just easier for the buyer's agent to do it because they know their schedule best. And unless they're time blocking like a master, it's hard to schedule for them.
We use I was going to say, we use RealVolve as our transaction management system, and we have email templates that go out. So when we start the process on the buying side, it's, I think, the second email template. There's one that goes out, it's an introduction. The second one is based around inspections. And we put it on the buyer most of the time, because for me to do it, I don't know their schedule. Then I have to coordinate with the agent and with the buyers and with the listing agent and make sure that the sellers, it just, plus the fact that we usually know what kind of inspections these buyers want to do, but sometimes they want to do mold, or sometimes they need to do radon. I'm not comfortable spending their money. So, you know, some of the times there are particular agents on our team that do like to set up inspections. That happened today, but the buyers are out in California. They don't know who to pick. So he's like, I will take care of that. But we find it works a lot easier if we put it on the buyer to do, and we give them the information right off the bat. And
So
then
you-
we can coordinate.
So do you give them like a list of inspectors,
We
or?
give them suggestions. So we don't recommend anybody. Well, we do give them suggestions to inspectors that we use on a regular basis. And most of the time they can set it up online. And then if it's inspectors that we normally use, they always include us in, this is what's been set up. So then they can, actually, they usually copy the listing agent on it too. So sometimes that's taken care of for us, but it does work very well.
What do other people do?
I don't really trust our agents to be that meticulous in checking with every party that needs to be aware after multiple instances where someone showed up and they didn't know they were coming. So for our team, our TC does schedule all inspections or ask the buyer if they want to schedule it themselves. But it's in the introduction call. And we've streamlined the process with each one of our preferred inspectors that we do not schedule inspections in the morning because that's lead generation time. So there are only 2 times a day that we can do inspections. That's 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And that's the same for every single one of our inspectors that we have. And so we call the client and say, here's the 2 times that we have in inspections. What would you prefer? And what days can you not do? So I don't ask them what days can they do. And then we schedule and then schedule with all the other sides. I've just learned that clients do prefer you to lead them through the transaction, and making it as simple as possible just helps. But we ask them, you know, would you rather schedule your own inspection, or would you like us to take care of that for you? And normally they say, take care of it.
Does anybody do anything differently?
No, we do the same. The agents schedule it, and mostly just because we run into, they want to coordinate with their buyer when to do it. But if we get to like the day before the IO deadline and they don't tell us about it, or if it's not in their calendar, we'll ask them like, hey, has this inspection happened? And most of the time they're like, oh yeah, it was 2 days ago. And they just don't tell us or put it in their calendar. But as long as they don't miss their IO deadline, we just kind of keep an eye out for that, but they schedule their own. But I like her idea of in the intro call taking care of that, because the busier the agents get and the more we have, like it'd be easier to have everybody on the same page. We struggle with when we're on the listing side, like appraisals will get scheduled and they won't have access to like the super boxes. And then all of a sudden, as the TC, I'm trying to figure out who can let this appraiser and how is it going to work, what agents are available. So inspections are really never a problem. It's the appraisal on the listing side that 60% of the time is a nightmare.
I have a suggestion maybe. So when we go pending on our listings, I go into, I switch it from whatever the instructions are, showing time or lockbox. I say appointment only. And then in the agent remarks, it says call listing agent to schedule appointment. And then the listing agent will call and schedule with the seller to make sure that the seller will be there to let them in, or that if the listing agent needs to be there. Or if you would do that for your agent, it would say, call Aaliyah, and it would have your phone number to schedule appraisal. That way you're in control, and you schedule it and you make sure somebody's there instead of chasing, like the appraiser's there for an hour trying to get in. But in Idaho, our appraisers have access to lock boxes. So kind of.
Oh, yeah, ours have to go
sellers
through the,
know.
yeah, they have to go through the local program, and if they're from out of town, they'll just be like, well, someone's got to let me in or I can't do it. So if we don't have an agent available to let them in and the buyer's agent can't go, it just always becomes a mess. But I like that idea of just having someone to call to make sure it happens.
Yeah, call me and then I'll figure it out, but call me. Then it's not chasing your tail. That's so stressful.
Danielle, you're back. Is your internet back up?
Yeah, I really wanted to hear about her lender issues.
Must not be, because her video is still up and it's just showing black. Anything with photographers, sign companies, stagers?
Us, the only thing about stagers is getting the stuff out of there. That was our biggest gap for the longest time, because all of a sudden, if the closing moved up and the stager wasn't out yet and they couldn't get them out until get the stuff out for a couple more days, mess. Just a mess.
Or staging went in and the TC didn't know they were staging in the house and so didn't know to order it to come out.
Right.
I've had
Yeah,
that happen.
exactly. Then you're moving stuff with your rainmaker. Done that.
We
I know
use
we've
the
had
same.
some-
Oh, wait.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we use the same photographer across the board, so we have really good communication. It's just, we've kept him so busy to where we need another, but we haven't had issues. If anything, he calls us and is like, the seller's here, he answered the door in his underwear, he doesn't want to leave the house, what do I do?
No, I was going to comment around sign companies because I just had this happen today. We do have a little bit of challenge sometimes if it's a city sign in Baltimore City. They, I don't know, Peggy and Jennifer can tell me, it's a couple day turnaround time from when you order the sign down. And for city signs, they have to actually get in the house because there's a bracket that hangs off the second story window. So it does make it a little bit more difficult because sometimes they need an appointment or we need to make sure that they have access to the lockbox. And today it was like I ordered the sign down in plenty of time, but they didn't go until today and it closed today. And the buyer's agent had already taken the key out of the lockbox for settlement. So it would be nice, I think, if we knew exactly when they were going to be able to, or if they could let us know when they are expected to take it off. We usually get an email confirmation that it was removed or it was installed, but not necessarily like this is when we're scheduled to take it off.
What about your sign companies? Do they tell you, what day the sign will be installed, or are you kind of like us where we have to kind of guesstimate when it will be installed? If that makes any sense.
Guesstimate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my guy when to install it and I tell him when to take it down. And he does.
And does he give you a time? Like I'm going to install it at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning or?
No, so he needs at least 24-hour notice or he'll charge me an extra $30. But I just know, so if we're going to go live on a Thursday, I have it installed on a Wednesday. We have 24 hours to be active on the MLS after the sign is installed. So no, for in Idaho, it's not important we don't have to do dig lines or get permits or anything. They just go and throw the sign up.
You know, let me ask you, does anyone worry about that? Like, I know that that's the rule, but does anyone know if Bright actually has someone drive around and look and say, oh, look, that sign's been up for, 3 days?
Only the really bored agents.
I was gonna say it's normally another agent.
Yeah, they have to call and tattle on you. I mean, sometimes if we have a rural area and the guy, or my sign guy, poor Pat's got to drive an hour out there just to put a sign in and then drive an hour back. I just tell him, go get it done anytime this week. And then if I get a phone call, I'll just have the homeowner take the little panel down and then go hang the panel back up when we're ready. But in Idaho, we don't have an instant fine. It's kind of like a slap on the wrist. And it's not, I don't do it all of the time, just for those really far away listings. But then nobody tattles either, because who's driving an hour into the middle of nowhere to look at a house that they don't even know is for sale?
So have we answered everybody's questions for today? So we need a topic for next month. Any thoughts?
Expansion on the TCs and how to tell our rainmaker no.
That actually may be something that, because we're kind of growing and talking about expansion with maybe a couple prospective LCs on our team. So that, I don't know, that may be an interesting subject of how to interview, what to look for. I mean, we've kind of had some past employees that weren't really run by us as an admin staff, and they did not work out. So we do want to say in it.
Yeah, this is a really broad topic. We could cover a lot of different things and even how it affects our world, right? We don't even need to get into the parts that don't affect our world, but there's plenty that affects our world.
Well, and we just recently started working on our new hire requirements, like, bringing in the right agent at the right time and not just bringing on an agent because we need an agent. So, we just started creating a checklist of all the things they have to do before they can join our team. And I think that'll be helpful because we've been put in situations where we hired out of being busy and it caused more work on the operations side than anything. And we went back to square one. So